Hello and welcome to the quarterfinals here in Prague, and we're going to get a chance to see the first and second seeds, Arne Huschenbeth and Pascal Viren, up against each other in these quarterfinals. It was random pairings in terms of who was going to play who, Pascal Viren and Arne Huschenbeth. We got a chance to see both of their drafts. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Sete Wayfinder, the initial starting option.
Double Verdun Eidolon.
I mean, Talleyrand going in the grave are not ideal, but the Eidolons, they have got a reasonable shot at coming back at some point, and of course still finding the land there on that Wayfinder. Viren's deck, it's got a lot of cool things going on, while Arne, well, he's just nuts and bolting his way through with just a pretty potent red-green list.
Is that a safe hold elite?
I mean, that would be enough as a gold creature to get back both of these creatures.
Wow.
There we go. Card advantage all over the shop here as that 2/2 persist. I mean, it's got hybrid mana. It is a multicolored creature. That means that both of the copies of Verdant Eidolon going back to Pascal Viren's hand. And even if it works out that those are only things that get discarded to various Wild Mongrel-esque effects, still pretty solid. And we know that they can do so much more than that. They can fix the mana quite nicely for Pascal, or indeed just prove to be a handy blocker against what Arne Huschenbeth has going on.
This is also a very aggressive graveyard positioning on Pascal's side.
Yeah, it's practically like that Talleyrand wants to be on the other team.
Just slide a little bit left and get some drinks.
Almost in play. Just cast some spells and see what happens. So here comes a Mad Prophet, aided by that Generator Servant. So double haste, but none of it being used immediately there by Arne Huschenbeth. He's just going to utilize the haste on Mad Prophet, presumably for a little bit of a rummage right around the end of Pascal Viren's turn here. Or maybe sneak in a Basking Root Waller as a surprise for a creature that attacks in here. Safehold Elite attacks in, and here's the Verdant Eidolon. Pascal not willing to give up any more information as to what he's got going on in his hand just yet. And Mad Prophet allowing a little bit of a rummage, so discard then a draw. Just a land going to the graveyard for now, and Arne Huschenbeth working on developing some sort of a board in the face of what's been a pretty good start here from Pascal Viren.
I mean, getting 3 cards off the Wayfarer is pretty good value. It's in the face of it's a Vengevine, so it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big mythic, the 4/3 haster, and casting it for 4 mana is not necessarily what you'll see every game. In some cases, it'll just be a matter of let's get it into the graveyard, get it back for free just by casting a couple of creatures. But once it's in play, the 4/3 elemental works just the same whether you paid for it the old-fashioned way or got it into play some other fashion. Taking down the Sete Wayfinder initially, and this is one of the reasons that Sete Wayfinder is so important for Pascal Viren's deck. It buys him not just the lands that he finds in the cards it gets in the graveyard, but also a huge amount of time by just being a warm body that can get in the way of whatever's going on the other side of things. Watch of the Groves generating a token there and also representing a creature in the graveyard.
So what was that chum block about? Trying to figure out the reason why. He just jumped at 20. He could have also just double blocked the Vengevine and forcing Arne to play 2 creatures.
I mean, I guess that there might be something to be said for trying to get more creatures in the graveyard if there's the likes of a Spider Spawning going on. Though, sooner or later, Spider Spawning kind of sorts itself out, I suppose.
I'm just raising the topic, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can see why he didn't block with the 2 of them. Because, well, there would have been 2 creatures lost.
Yeah, killing off,
for nothing.
Trading with the Vengevine, a bit of a dicey affair given how easily the Vengevine can come back, of course. Just need to cast 2 creatures in a single turn to be able to get it in. Elemental coming through here.
And there's Artisan of Kozilek, that's... Is it the Entomb? Alright.
So Entomb lets you get any card and put it into your graveyard, so that could either be a creature or indeed a spell with flashback. They're the 2 big ones. Unburial Right's the card that gets put in the graveyard. Now that does require white mana, and that means that Pascal's going to have to further diversify his mana base. Already 3 colours, just needs to find a plains to be able to cast it.
He has the plains in hand, yeah.
Boom, there we go.
That's a pretty good combo. I like the Evoke, Reanimate.
Okay, so we all of a sudden find that Pascal Viren is the one with the big beefy boys on his side of the table.
Yeah, now blocking the Vengevine is not going to be a problem. And also, I think there's a Artisan of Kozilek in Pascal's hand. So easily played off the Eidolon. Is it next turn? Yeah, next turn.
Yeah, the Eidolon kind of, you sacrifice it and it's like a little green ritual.
Yeah.
Now, Arne Huschenbeth, his deck, he did draft quite a few combat tricks, so there's still the potential that he could set up some nice trades here at the very least with big attacks. But Pascal Viren's at 16. It seems like there's a big old wall set up here against a lot of what Arne Huschenbeth has going on. This has gone very well thus far for Pascal.
Yeah. And next turn, if he plays the Artisan, he can get Talrand and start making Drakes.
Yeah, I mean, when Talrand went to the graveyard at the start of the game, it seemed unlikely that they were going to come back anytime soon, but Pascal's managed to find a way. And now he's starting to attack in. And this has got to be a bit of an alarm bell for Arne Huschenbeth.
What does Verdant Eidolon says exactly? What's the...
green sacrifice, and you get to add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool.
Is it when you cast a multicolored spell?
When you cast a multicolored creature, I think it is, you get to return it from your graveyard to hand.
I think it's multicolored spell, but just if we have the text.
I mean, here's the Artisan of Kozilek, and it does return Talrand, as you previously mentioned. So from now on, those spells are going to be pretty decent, generating a little bit of extra value in 2/2 creatures.
Well, you cast a multicolored spell, yes, exactly. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Not tons of multicolored spells in this format, but enough, especially in the form of things like the Safehold Elite, that you can get things back. Just a quick update. We've already got our first game win in our feature match area. Morgenstern up against Rob Dehaan in game 1. So that one's still in progress. We'll bring you more updates as and when they come along. We're going to be rattling through our games here as we fast approach our Ultimate Masters champion in Prague.
All right, the athletes are here in the arena. But now the Vengevine is looking very small.
Yeah, I mean, the Vengevine, he's a little cutie, but there's an Artisan of Kozilek on the other side of things.
And the 7/7.
Yeah, this is a problematic situation for Huschenbeth. His is meant to be the beatdown deck, and here he's facing off against much, much larger creatures on the other side of the table. And Pascal Viren's still with cards in hand.
He's not messing around. He's just throwing them in.
I mean, I feel like if there's one thing that I've been gradually learning over the course of this tournament is it feels like greed is good in the Ultimate Masters format. If you want to go big, there are ways to do so. I mean, navigating your way to find them all can be a little bit fiddly, but the people that have gone for these big speculative decks that have been able to piece it together have just had such incredible games.
Like, aggro decks don't punish you as much as in other formats. Like,
yes.
Decks are just not as aggressive as like any other limited formats in the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly heard people singing the praises of saying, I'm going to go into this draft, I'm going to try and be red, I'm going to try and take the aggressive cards, I'm going to try and get the damage in, but there seem to be a lot of cards that make that plan a little bit trickier, and when things do go right for the big decks, they go so right. So Annihilator 2, and then just some chump blocks here. Pascal Viren whittling down what Arne Huschenbeth has going on in the early stages, and another Eidolon coming down alongside some Patchwork Gnomes. Still one card left in hand for Pascal.
And 16 life, that's a lot of life for this lone Vengevine.
Yeah, the Vengevine's going to have to do some work here in order to get through. I mean, we know there's the potential for pump spells, we know there's the potential for burn spells, but 16 is a lot of damage to have to deal at this stage in the game. And on the other side of things for Pascal, 7 points of damage, that's one hit from either of his 2 biggest creatures. Patchwork Gnomes, pretty much the ideal blocker for a lot of what Arne Huschenbeth has going on here. You can discard a card to regenerate them, and there's exactly one card in Pascal Viren's hand.
Yeah, the turn two play was key on Pascal's side. I mean, the Wayfinder, finding the land, putting 2 Eidolons in the graveyard.
So Arena Athlete getting a Spider Umbra here, meaning that Safehold Elite unable to block. But ultimately, in spite of all that, he says, yeah, this is well and truly over. Pascal Viren picking up the first game. He will just need one more if he's to advance to these semi-finals.
I watched I was on Card Viewer while Frank and Matej were covering Pascal's draft, And I have to say, I liked it. I enjoyed the way he drafted. I liked the payoffs in his deck.
Now, I'm intrigued because I didn't actually see that draft. How much of it was him getting the setup first, or how much of it was going for the payoff? Because I think that's one of the question marks for me going into these drafts.
He had double Karame's Reach very early in the draft, along with an Expanse and Urban Evolution. Yeah, these were probably the 5 or 6 first picks, along with All This Dust and the Sovereign of Lost Lara. These were like the 7 first picks.
Okay, so early doors, it was let's try and make sure that I can do whatever I want, and then figure out what I want to do later.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm not sure he... I don't... Do I have the list? I do not have the list. I don't know if he runs All His Dust.
Yeah, it's one of those cards that it is a very powerful spell, clearly, but the cost on it is high, and you can't afford to just sort of wait around and hope that it's going to be good enough without playing creatures first.
Yeah, and his board was just much better than his opponent's, so...
And the Sato Wayfinder on turn 2 just did it all.
Yeah, that play was key in the game. He has a lot of payoffs, like when you put cards in your graveyard, ways to take advantage of it. I think he has a Treasure Cruise. He does have a Become Immense. I don't know if he plays it.
I love all the graveyard interaction. Innistrad, easily my favorite block to draft, and I think that were I to be starting on building a cube, if I happen to have a bunch of Ultimate Masters, I might find a lot of cards in there that would suit my personal style of what I like to be doing in draft, because there's a lot of very cool things going on with that graveyard. It's almost like having a second hand to work with, I suppose. All of these cards that, just because they've already been consigned to the graveyard, does not mean that they're out of the game.
How good was Armored Scab?
Yeah.
1/4 for 3, mill 4 comes into play.
I mean, the whole of Innistrad block, when it came to draft, was good, but to me, triple Innistrad was the pinnacle. I think the only things that I would have asked for were maybe not to have Invisible Stalker lurking around
that
with...
card. That was my favorite card of the set.
And maybe to have red be a tiny bit better. A couple more updates for you. Marcus Angelin has won his Game 1. We've also heard that Yves Chabot is 1 game up in his match as well. So gradually working our way through these quarterfinals. Engineered Explosives on 2 coming from Pascal Viren here in Game 2. He's already got 1 card that he can very clearly deal with in play, which is that Wild Mongrel. And a Hissing Iguana at least means that if the Mongrel gets blown up, that Anna Huschenbeth gets a parting shot.
I feel bad for the dog.
Yeah, I mean,
come on, the dog, like, stepping on the landmine, that's...
we didn't need to go there, Ralph. That seems a little much.
Just
last gasp there being used on the Hissing Iguana.
It's Fallout all over again.
Oh, dearie me, don't. It's too soon.
What's his name? Meatball? Not Meatball. What's the name of the dog in Fallout?
No, I've blanked it. We're in a safe space here. Wild Mongrel's going to be fine. So last gasp on the Iguana there, taking it down, and here we see a Fiery Temper in order to get a little bit more damage through for Arna Huschenbeth. This time round, he's not going to give Pascal Viren the time. Discarding it to Wild Mongrel means that was a lot of damage coming through. Viren already on 12 after that little exchange.
Dog meat. That's the name of the dog.
Why would you do this to me, Ralph? Why? As things stand, Viren, he's going to have to bounce back a little bit here. He does use those Engineered Explosives. Clears the board entirely. Let's see what the follow-up from Arna Huschenbeth is. Looks like he's got a Generator Servant, so setting himself up for a big play in future turns, but crucially not finding a 4th land, and that could prove costly here, as we know that Pascal Viren can do good work, and Watch of the Groves generating an elemental token that is likely to be big enough even to tussle with whatever it is the Generator Servant's bringing along here. Unless what comes along is a flyer.
It's a 2-turn clock.
All right, so the Phoenix coming in, Firewing Phoenix with haste, dealing 4 damage. 2 more turns in the air will be enough to close things out. Verdant Eidolon coming along here for Pascal Viren. So next turn he has access to a great deal of mana, but he does not have very many turns to find an answer here, it must be said. Another 4 coming through, and Soul's Fire clears things up. That was a lightning fast game too. Arne Huschenbeth, he decided that he was going to use that fiery temper aggressively, going straight to the head, and big smiles for him as he's able to square things up. These guys going to a game 3, and that's exactly the kind of draw that Pascal Viren was hoping to avoid. So let's have a look at the bracket now and get a feel for exactly where we're at here. We've got Anton Morgenstern against Rob de Haan. I believe that it's Morgenstern picking up the game win there in game 1. Marcus Anglin, he's picked up his game 1 against Alexander Rosdahl. Still a little bit of work for him to do in terms of getting there to face the winner of Morgenstern and Rob de Haan. Then we've got Arne Huschenbeth and Pascal Viren. They clearly, having led the pack in terms of finishes in the Swiss, also want to get their match finished first because they're already 2 games deep, 1 apiece between Huschenbeth and Pascal Viren. And then on the bottom of things, we've got Yves Chabot against Stefano Vinci, and it's Yves that has won his game 1 there, potentially to face off against Arne Arne or Pascal, should I say, in that semi-final. Fast getting through these games, and these players here, they've finished their sideboarding. They're all about the shuffling now as they want to get into game 3. 2 very different styles of decks being played here. Each of them has shown its power. It's just a matter of which one is going to make it through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, when we're talking about punishing the greedy player, this is the kind of draw that, well, punishes the...
Yeah, I mean, even that will punish the mid-range player.
Yeah.
That was just an incredibly quick draw, and one that was quite difficult to interact with. A lot of burn going on, a lot of evasion, a lot of haste. Put those things together, and it's a short clock for almost anyone.
Yeah, the Phoenix is good in that way. Like, a 4 powered flying creature, you don't have that many of these guys in this format.
Yeah, and getting it back is not trivial. Triple red is not something that every deck can reliably achieve, and especially these decks that are splashing colors left, right, and center can struggle.
But 4/2 flying, it's
a big deal.
4 mana. It's not that expensive, and there are not a lot of blockers.
Yeah, this is not a format typified by having an air force for every deck in the format. Quite the reverse, if anything. Pascal, when asked about how he felt about his deck going into these quarterfinals, I think he did say that he was a little concerned that it might be a little patchy, that obviously it's good draws. We've seen them already. Its good draws are very good indeed, but there is the potential for it to lose out if someone gets a quick draw, and Arne has the tools. You can see there, Matej Zadelkai and Frank Carsten, they're getting a feel for the other decks in our feature match area. They're going to be commentating on our semi-finals, and you can bet that they want to get every little piece of information that they can going into those matches. We'll be back with you for the finals.
I think Frank just enjoys being before the camera.
Yeah,
he just likes to be on TV.
Bit of a show pony, our Frank.
Yeah.
Wants to make sure that people get to see him doing his thing.
Pascal's hand is not great. It doesn't have a blue mana. It doesn't have fixers. Well, it has all the other colors, but no blue. Here's the blue mana, but the rest is not very impressive. So
yeah, I mean, step 1 for some of these decks is just making sure that their mana works out, and if that doesn't happen, everything else falls apart. It's a bit of a house of cards in that regard. Terramorphic Expanse, an important element here, but Generator Servant means that potentially we could see another one of these quick starts from Huschenbeth where he gets something going before Pascal really has his motor running.
Well, the mana is fixed now. Let's try to get to the part where you do stuff. But most of his hand is just lands and Ether Snipe.
I mean, Ether Snipe is a good one.
It costs a lot.
Yeah, Patchwork Gnomes for now, not too exciting. What are we going to see from Huschenbeth?
First printed in Tempest, I think.
Yeah, there were a lot of gnomes back in the day, in the early days of Magic. You don't see quite so many of them these days.
Oh, that's a card he cannot cast.
Spark Spitter will gradually generate a whole bunch of 3/1s.
The first gnome, you know when the first gnome was printed?
The first gnome, let's think there's been copper gnomes, patchwork gnomes,
No, it's way
ticking gnomes.
It's way before. I think it was in Legends. The 1/1 for 4 that makes planes not make any white mana.
Oh wow, yeah, a deep cut there on that one.
Trench something, gnome. Anyway, face feathers on the Spark Spitter.
Yeah, that means that now Arne Huschenbeth doesn't have any Madness Enablers, any easy way of discarding cards, potentially shutting down some of the more potent draws that he might have.
Ooh, look at this.
Just an old-fashioned Vengevine for 4, coming in with haste. This didn't work out super well for Huschenbeth in Game 1, but I would say that Pascal Viren's draw substantially worse thus far, based on what we've seen at least in this game 3.
So second blue means Talon will be online. But there's no spell. There's no spell to follow up, so...
Yeah, Talran gets very, very good indeed in decks that are heavy on spells. And Pascal Viren, he does have spells in his list. He will have the potential to get there on spells, but it might take a little bit of time.
The Aquaman.
Okay, we saw this play last game, and happening again.
Damage.
These hasty 4-power creatures.
Yeah.
Patchwork
saving
Gnomes,
some mana, saving some life here.
just jumping in the way and regenerating. I mean, it's just as well for Pascal Viren that he gained a bit of life off Faith's Fetters, because that life and more is ticking away here as these big attacks come through. And Hushenbeth still with plenty of mana to work with. Not sure quite how many cards he's got in hand, but...
I mean, Pascal can stabilize here. He has Talron. If he draws a spell, he can just block the Phoenix. The problem is that Arn has the 3 red mana to bring it back. It will take some time, but...
Sometimes slow and steady wins that race. I'm not sure that that's a fair analogy for a lot of Magic games, but... Alright, so here's
bouncing the Phoenix.
Bouncing the Faith's Fetters.
Oh, bouncing the Faith's Fetters, yeah.
I like this.
Yeah, so he can deal with the Phoenix there.
Yeah, the Phoenix, it's an interesting one because it's one that, in some respects, if you've got enough spells, you can just have an endless supply of blockers just as the Phoenix's endless supply of attacks. But at the same time, the other... I mean, Vengevine's not a terrible one to stick a Faith Fetters on either. Like, you just kind of... What's going on with this attack? So, Vengevine just swinging into Patchwork Gnomes, forcing discards left, right, and centre. What else does Hushenbeth have? Not a whole lot. We just heard that Anton Morgenstein and Rob Dehaan going to a Game 3 as well. Game 3's all over the place in our top 8 here.
Why don't the Phoenix attack?
I mean, there's not that... I mean, there was a tapped out Pascal Virens. There weren't a whole lot of creatures to block.
I don't know. Why don't he attack with the Phoenix? I must be missing something because there was no flying creature on Pascal's side, and the Phoenix is probably going to be met with Face Fetters, yeah. Yeah. Is there something I'm missing? I mean...
It may be that Arne Hushenbeth had a different set of expectations where that Faith's Fetters was going to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I might be missing something very obvious, but I don't see why he didn't attack. Anyway, now Pascal is on 20 and looking pretty
solid. I mean, that trade with the Vengevine...
Depends if the Vengevine comes back now.
It certainly does. Arena Athlete number 1. Arena Athlete number 2. There's the Vengevine. Arne Hushenbeth's board pretty decent here, but Pascal Viren, if he starts finding spells, especially if those spells involve card drawing, he could snowball a little bit in terms of his side of the board.
But he also has cards like Kodama's Reach that don't actually do that much. They will make a Drake, but that's about it.
At least he's made it to this game on a full 20 life, thanks in no small part to that Faith's Fetters. 8 life gained for him thus far. He definitely has big, high-impact spells in his deck that he can cast with all this mana available to him.
Is that an Unburial Rites?
An Unburial Rites on Aether Snipe would certainly make sense of that block.
He would get a Drake plus a 4/4. Yeah, it is Unburial Rites. Wow.
Okay, here we go.
That's a great spell here.
2/2 Flying Drake. And indeed, the opportunity to do something cool with that Aether Snipe. Bounces Vengevine. Each of these players know that for one of them, this will be the last game of their tournament. Hushenbeth may use his Spite Spitter to discard Vengevine and cast a couple of creatures just as the most efficient way to get as many attackers as possible.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If bouncing the Vengevine was the best option. Could be.
all going to depend on exactly how many creatures in hand there. It doesn't look like there's a huge amount available for Anahushinbeth this turn if he wanted to get that Vengevine into play in an unusual fashion.
I mean, the bouncing it doesn't really have any cost. Discarding it with the spitter, spark spitter. It's just gonna make a 3/1 that Pascal can block. So it's not like he would make too big of a use of the Vengevine hand anyway.
So Mad Prophet discarding Vengevine, ultimately fueling the discard draw ability on the Prophet. And the first Drake gets to hit in. Is Pascal Viren turning a corner here? He's certainly trying to.
Yeah. And evoke Walker of the Grove.
Yeah. Let's generate some more tokens. In this case, 4/4 beasts, 4/4 elementals rather than 2/2 drakes. But
that's also a nice target to Boreal Rites.
Certainly is. Get a gigantic monster in play that will give Anahushinbeth pause. Mad Prophet continuing his quest to draw Anahushinbeth into something good here. The Walker of the Grove, just a gigantic monster, and as soon as you have the ability to get it back rather than just evoke it, I mean, evoking it on its own already good, getting it in the graveyard often handy for the likes of spider spawning and similar, but when you actually get it in play, goodness me, it deserves an answer.
You know, what's this guy? Peacock? A peacock, lizard, flower,
hedge
stuff.
Oh, what's that nice plant you got in the corner there? Oh,
there's
yeah,
horns too.
Don't get too close to that one.
There's horns, there's feathers.
I like it. He's a good one. We'll allow him. All right, Scuzzback Marauders, that's a nice addition to Hushinbeth's side of things, and Persist particularly good in Hushinbeth's deck because he's got a number of copies of Shed Weakness to potentially get even more bites out of that cherry. Trample also potentially handy in the face of things like Patchwork Gnomes, though at this point with Pascal Viren starting to get his bigger creatures on the battlefield, uncertain whether even Trample will be enough to get very much damage through.
It looks like this game is slipping away from Arn's hands.
We just heard that Yves Chabot and Stefano Vinci also going to a Game 3. Lots and lots of Game 3s in our feature match area thus far. Whether that signals that the power levels of these decks pretty close, that no one's really running away with it, not quite sure. We're going to stay with this one to its conclusion just to get a sense of exactly where our top seeds are going to finish up.
If the next play is better than Imperial Rites on the Walker, no, that's the play. But still, it's...
Yeah, if there was something better than that, then Arna had a big problem on his hands. As it stands,
it's still pretty bad because the 7/7 is here to stay. And if it dies, well, it's okay. There's a 4/4 to replace it.
Yeah, and this is... You can see Anahushinbeth all business at this stage in the game. There were some big smiles earlier on, but right now, this could very well be Anahushinbeth's last game of the tournament.
Yeah, and Pascal's still on 20 life.
Yeah, I mean, it's slow but sure pecking away of these Drakes are going to make Hushinbeth's life kind of difficult. It's not as even as Pascal needs to be attacking with his big creatures.
Look at his hand. He's not actually that far. Like, he has a 5-power creature. He can pump it with Snake Umbra, a +2/+2, and he has 2 Soul's Fires.
Oh, wow.
So he's actually 2 points away from winning.
That's
Be
crazy.
6, 7, 8. No, needs 2 power, 2 extra power.
I mean, do you put the Umbra on now and just kind of wait it out? Because you're also a little short on mana to make all of this work, right?
You're only 1 mana short. He needs 2 damage somewhere. And he can't discard here because, well, his hand is...
Yeah, what's he hoping to get into? I mean, I guess if you can find a Become Immense, that'd be kind of interesting.
With another Shed Weakness, that would actually be 2 extra damage.
So it goes for the first Soulfire now.
No, he just needs a Fear Temper. Would that be enough?
Fiery Temper might be enough.
No, probably not.
It's an Entomb. So Entomb, in addition to
Spider spawning,
searching up something awesome, also gets to put a Drake token rather into play. Such a powerful card. A Verdant Eidolon getting entombed here.
He might not be playing Spider Spawning.
I mean, yeah. It seems to me like he's got plenty of toys, even without the ability to generate a whole lot of spiders.
He does not have that many creatures.
Oh, on the battlefield he does, sure, but yeah, in his graveyard it's slimmer pickings.
Yeah. He drew the one of his very, very few gold cards.
And why not? 6 points of damage coming in for Pascal Viren in the air here.
And look at this.
Value, value, value. Safehold Elite gets back Verdant Eidolon, immediately gets cast. Pascal Viren's board getting busier and busier.
Can he win next turn? I don't think so.
Mad Prophet discarding an Arena Athlete. That one not good enough, apparently.
Is it land? Oh, is that Fury Temper as well? Oh, that's another Spec Spitter. Yeah, it looks like a Spark Spitter.
Okay, so we have our first semi-finalist. It is Stefano Vinci. He's defeated Yves Chabot 2-1. He will be making it through to our semi-finals. We'll get a chance to see potentially some of his semi-final games. But quarterfinals for him, all done. This one pretty locked up here. And Arne Huschenbeth, a lot of burn available to him, trying to figure out whether or not he can make that all happen before the Drakes of Pascal Viren are able to make him succumb here. I mean, at some point, if Pascal Viren attacks with all of his creatures, he's got a fair amount of overlap going on here. I can see why that Spark Splitter coming down, as Huschenbeth needs to kind of fight a little bit of a rearguard action until he's able to get everything that he needs together here.
Soulsfire also draws a card.
Because of the Snake Umbra, yeah.
He drew one last turn.
Because it's the creature that deals damage, right?
Yeah. Well, he has one turn to win, so... So what does he need? He needs another shit weakness. Is that right?
I mean, Become Immense would be the cleanest, right?
Oh yeah. No, actually, yeah. He needs the Become Immense. I don't know if he has one.
This is a tight one. Talrand the Sky Summoner doing great work for Pascal Viren here. It's not been the sort of the classic blue-red spells. Paff, paff, paff. Look at all of my Drakes, but all of these other creatures, just meaning that Arne Huschenbeth's red-green deck has not been able to get into the red zone as much as it would like. In the meantime, these Drakes just representing an omnipresent threat every single turn, getting in for a little bit of damage, gradually that flock growing and growing and growing, and that means that Arne Huschenbeth's opportunities to make it through to the semi-finals getting thinner and thinner here.
He does have a Become Immense.
All right.
And he only the other option was a third Soulsfire.
Oh yeah.
He does not have that.
Okay.
But he does have the Become Immense.
6 cards in the graveyard.
So let's see.
Big draw step here. So
he's dead next turn. He has a 1 draw to draw the Become Immense.
Mad Prophet.
Is he going to draw it? Is he going to draw it?
Forest, don't need that. Doesn't look like we've got there. There is not much left in the room now. We've got our top 8 happening as what was once over 2,000 players. We've gradually got everything being packed down as everyone focuses in on these last few matches. We've just heard that Marcus Anglin has won his match, so we will be seeing him in these semi-finals. Oh, sorry, Marcus Anglin, making it squared up at 1-1. Them going to a Game 3. Game 3 here, very much hanging in the balance. Arne Huschenbeth trying to figure out if there's any way that he can get himself out of the problem that Talrand Sky Summoner has brought in the hands of Pascal Viren here.
He needs to draw a card. I don't think Pascal will let him draw a card. He has to attack with everything and hope the Martyr gets in for 1, so he can draw a card. I think that's his option. It's his only option.
And the Scuzzback Marauders does have trample, but unfortunately there are some very big bodies indeed that can get in the way of that goblin.
There's also the option to... Oh no, he's on 14. He has to pump it the whole way. He has the option to pump one of his arena athlete to make the 7-7 not block. So he has more chances to connect with the Martyr, but I don't think Pascal is going to let him.
I mean, there's so many blockers here that even if one of them gets taken out of the equation, it strikes me that there's going to be enough here. There's one creature that's obviously the scary creature on Arne Huschenbeth's side of the battlefield, whereas when we start playing the scary game, there's a lot of scary creatures for Pascal.
I mean, wouldn't Become Immense work? It's just a +6/+6 on the Martyr. I think that's his only hope. To pump the Martyr, Soul's Fire, Joe Become Immense, attack with everybody. And then hope that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of finger crossing involved here, but that might well have to be good enough. We've just heard that Rob de Haan has won his match, so he will be in the semi-finals. Arne Huschenbeth trying to find a sequence of plays here that will get him there, and it's unfortunately, it's not just sort of, do I have the damage in hand? He does not have the damage in hand. He needs to find some way, and he's got just a few scant ways of drawing extra cards here. Taking time here, but you know what? If this is the last turn of your tournament, take a few moments.
Yeah, Pascal's 8 blockers.
And Pascal can afford to essentially throw all of his creatures in the bin here just so that he can get a bit of extra time. Even if one of his drakes gets killed off, still plenty more. And look at this. Pascal, he's having a good old think about exactly what he wants to do here. He's watched Arne Huschenbeth do all of that thinking. Now it's his time to figure out what this big attack means. 6 creatures coming in. He's got 8 blockers.
Yeah, the only way... if Pascal does not play Run Become Immense, then there's a way he can lose this game. I don't see any other way.
Yeah, I mean, there's exactly one creature with trample here as well. So sort of in terms of making plans for where things can go wrong, that kind of makes Pascal's life a little bit easier. Would the attack with the Phoenix been enough? It's definitely a good question.
Yeah, it would have been enough, I think, from last turn. With another, last turn he had enough to make 16, I think, to deal 16 damage. So if he's missing 4 damage, then the Phoenix attack would have been good enough.
Good spot there, chat. Possible that Pascal Viren may have played his turn somewhat differently, though. I don't know how much he could have actually played around the board that's going on from Huschenbeth.
No, I don't think he would have been able to play around it.
These decisions that come many, many turns ago having a big impact.
Oh, he has a second one.
So
wow, he can still draw it,
Draws into Hissing Iguana.
Wouldn't have... I could have changed a few things before the attack. And it's not enough.
Could not get there. Has to extend the hand. Pascal Viren maybe dodged a little bit of a bullet there, and it will be Viren, our number 1 seed from the Swiss, that ultimately makes it through into the semi-finals here. The Belgian, his deck, it does a lot of things.
Yeah.
And the laser-sharp focus of Arne Huschenbeth's deck, not quite enough to get past what Pascal has going on. We're going to get a chance to jump across to one of our other matches still going on. Some of our players already having made their way into the semi-finals. Rob de Haan, he was able to win his match already. Yves Chabot, I believe, also in our Final 4. But now we have Marcus Angling against Alexander Rosdahl. This is the decider between them, and it's all action on Rosdahl right now. He's got a lot going on. Meanwhile, Marcus, 5 lands, not a whole lot else, at least in play. It was Stefano Vinci who is in our Final 4 alongside Rob de Haan. We also know, of course, about Pascal Viren making it, so this will be to determine who our final member of the semi-finals will be. Fauna Shaman now stuck under some Faith's Fetters, will not be able to activate, but Wickerbow Elder, the perfect card to fetch up to make sure that that's not going to be the case for too terribly long. Even the mana to be able to use it basically immediately untap. So essentially, that from Marcus Anglin. I mean, I guess it may have changed the things that we can fetched up immediately with Fauna Shaman, but kind of just a big old life gain spell there.
Yeah.
Get rid of the face fetters.
And I think Marcus Hans is very good as well. He's just missing the 6th land to play the Sovereign. Is
So
he going to be able
4, 7, 9 damage coming through here. Marcus Anglin in Czech, if you will, in the Czech Republic.
Oh, look at this. The 6th land is creeping tar pit.
Oof.
No.
There's the handshake. Alexander Rosdahl, he's the 4th and final member of our semi-finals. All of our matches falling fairly quick and fast there at the end. So it is Alexander Rosdahl winning there. Rob Dehaan, Pascal Viren, and Stefano Vinci. They will be our 4 players making it through. Stefano Vinci against Pascal Viren. We just got a chance to see a little bit there of Alexander Rosdahl taking down Marcus Anglin, and he will be up against Rob Dehaan. Viren, he was the number 1 seed going into this. He knew that he was going to be on the play throughout. He will get a chance to see if he can make it all the way through to the finals.
He has a ton of rares as well.
Oh, he's got a lot of power going on in his deck. It's definitely an exciting one to watch, and watch it we shall. There is going to be, well, a very brief break, and then we're going to get a chance to see our semi-finals. Do not go anywhere. It is going to be Matej and Frank bringing you the semi-finals right after these messages.